The other person in the room, Adrian, that's
Hello, Adrian.
his microphone's on mute. That's my friend from Barbados.
Oh, well, great. Alex, I am on a webinar, so I would like you to go to your mom and let her.
Can
Okay?
you see him, baby?
All right.
Okay, but I don't know if it's
Go on, Alex.
yep, you go parse. I don't know.
Have you unmuted?
Yeah, I just did.
All right, so I'm gonna mute the Skype call.
Cool.
All right.
Okay, we're live and direct. Welcome to both um, Adrian and Andrina. Oh, double A's.
Yeah, that's right.
If you bear with me 1 minute, I'm just trying to get myself sorted with regards to having it live and streaming on the website. Oh, great. Adrian and Andrina. Oh, double A's.
Yeah, that's right.
If you bear with me 1 minute, I'm just trying to get myself sorted with regards to having right. I need live and streaming on the website. Okay, I am looking for a document that I recently just did. Okay, are you still there, guys?
Yeah, I am.
All right, just bear with me as I pull my documents up. And those of you who are on the internet, on the website, we are going to be starting ASAP. If you're on the website, there's actually a chat function on the website, a chat box. You can simply type a message in. When you start to type, it will give you a prompt to put in your own name. You can do that. I think, let me just lower the volume because I'll get some feedback from that. Okay. I don't know why I can't really find my document, which is very annoying, especially when you're live on a website.
I know, right? It
All right.
happens, doesn't it? It's just the
Just,
way.
just to check to see that the chat room functions. Yes, there's a hello everyone. Welcome. Those of you who are listening tonight, we will be speaking about biblical dating in modern times. And I have a question for everyone, and Andrina, you could probably weigh in on this. Do you think that Christians should date? Years ago, this guy, I think his name is Joshua Harris, he brought out a book called Why I Kiss Dating Goodbye. Why I Kiss Dating Goodbye. And he thought that dating was not a biblical thing. It's not something that Christians should engage in. And he gave many reasons for that. And it has been a source of controversy for a very long time. So here is the question. Do you think that Christians should date? Yes or no? Put a Y in the chat box if you agree, and N if you disagree.
Can I put a M for a maybe?
An
Depending.
M for maybe. Yes or no? Maybe sometimes, maybe not, maybe so, maybe no.
Mm.
So we're going to say we have three options. Yes, if you say definitively Christians should definitely date. No, if you think Christians shouldn't date. And M, if you are undecided or you think yes in some cases, no in some cases. So why did you say maybe?
Well, I think it just depends on what the person is looking to get from a relationship. If your end goal is definitely marriage, then I don't particularly think you should be dating just for dating's sake. Whatever you
Mhm.
do, however you attempt to get to know somebody, if your end goal is marriage, that's what you should be aiming towards. Whether you call it dating, whether you call it courting or whatever, I believe that you should be aiming towards that goal.
All right, thank you, Andrea. I got a little sidetracked here.
That's all right.
Um, it's a little, but I agree with you. I agree absolutely with what you've just said, depending on the motive. By the way, what we should do really is to define exactly what we mean by dating. What is dating? Have you ever dated? Well, I think unless you're living under some kind of a rock, you and unless you're less than 15 or 18 or you're young, usually most of us would have had some kind of dating experience. And what the other question I'm going to ask two questions. A, is dating biblical, or is dating can dating be found in the Bible? And B, if so, why if not, why do we do it? And what did the biblical people do to choose spouses? So, is dating part of scripture? And probably, that might give some kind of a headache for a number of people. However, for now, let's talk about what is dating. Have you been on a date? What is dating? I know many of you. I'll make it easy for you rather than having you give a description of dating. Maybe I could give you several options. Would you like to tell me what you think dating is, or would you like me to give you options and you say A, B, or C?
I think you should give some options, Hilton.
Okay, let's get them some options. The first option is if you think dating is just simply, meeting a person for the purpose of having fun, recreation, and getting to know them in that kind of atmosphere, that's A. B, dating is a process where you get to evaluate and decide whether or not a person meets your criteria for being a future spouse. And C, if you think that dating is none of the above, but a process where you should, none of the above, A, B, or C. Dating is for fun, recreation, a wonderful time as you get to know the other person. And B, dating is a specific activity where you intentionally go about evaluating whether or not someone is a potential future spouse. A, B, or C. C is none of the above.
I've put it in the chat room, Hilton, so if anybody wants to take a look.
Okay, yes. Well done. You're very efficient, Andrina.
Yeah, I like to be.
You get 100% for that. Now, not everyone is actually on this chat room. I'm keeping an eye out for anyone who might be on the website. Okay, we're not having any takers so far. Maybe people are slow at responding or they're shy to come into the chat room and identify themselves. But I would go for, which one would you go for, Andrina?
Oh, it's difficult, and I wonder if it's just with the word, like with the words that we use. I would say A is dating for me. That's what I would say dating was, and B is more courtship. So I would kind of describe it like that. And I have actually read I Kiss Dating Goodbye as well. So I think that's probably why I've got that mindset in terms of dating.
Okay, right. There are indeed different ways of viewing dating, and I sometimes I agree with, depends on which side of the bed I wake up on. Sometimes I I totally agree because I have my my doubts about modern dating, and I think that is counterproductive. And other times I think, there is no harm in getting to know someone in a fun recreational way. However, I need to start and preface everything that I'm saying that dating as we know it in modern times is not found in the Bible. That wasn't the process that they used. However, if we think of dating as a process of meeting, evaluating, deciding whether or not a person is a potential future spouse for us, then throughout all ages, from the time man was created, that process has gone on in one form or the other. And the Bible has many examples of that. There are three to four different methods people found spouses in the Bible. Would you like me to tell you some of those?
Yeah.
Well, one, God match made people. God was and is and still still is and will always be the first and the first matchmaker. Okay, so God came down and he match made Adam and Eve. But I don't think that God ever match made anybody after that. That's one process. The other process is where people were given their spouses, particularly women, they were given over to their husbands by their fathers. So parents chose the spouse of their children. I don't know which of us would like that in this day and age. We have people like Abraham. Remember the story of Abraham in Genesis chapter 24, I think, where Abraham commissioned his servant to go and look for a spouse for his son Isaac. And then you would probably remember, was it Saul? Saul who gave Michael, I think her name was, to David as a trophy bride. Saul said, well, if anyone kills so many of the Philistines, or even, I think there was one time he said, anybody who killed Goliath would get his daughter as a wife. So in those days, you could get a trophy bride. And that's another method. The third method I could think about was where one person is mentored by another, as in the case of Ruth and Naomi. Remember Ruth and Naomi, where Naomi told Ruth exactly what to do to secure Boaz's heart. Because Boaz was one of them commitment phobe. He was afraid of commitment, well, for one reason or the other. And Naomi and Ruth strategized about how to go about sealing the deal. So there was a mentoring process. And in fact, this is interesting, Andrina. Ruth actually proposed to Boaz. I don't know if any of our audience would literally do that in this day and age.
Well, this is the thing, and as women, aren't we told that we shouldn't approach men or chase men, and that they should a man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. So I don't know whether we would do this to men now.
Well, there's a biblical precedence. It seems as though that women or a woman, and I don't think any modern woman would do what Ruth did, which was to go and lie in the actual bed of the man. So there is a biblical precedence for that, but I do agree that there is a way to approach. There's a feminine way to approach, and there is a masculine way to approach. And some women are bold enough, some women are not that keen, and some men, many men I must say, are not really excited about the idea of a woman proposing to them, even though they may say that they would love and relish and like the idea. When the rubber hits the road, they're not exactly keen about it, and for many different reasons. But it has happened. It happened in the Bible. And nobody's going to say that it's a sin, but it's not something we would recommend. And if you are so minded and you want to do it, there is a particular way to do that. So we spoke about several different ways that people in the Bible got married. God match made them. The parents were involved, so the parents secured spouses for their children. Then there was the mentoring process. Some women, like Ruth, actually proposed and approached the man that she wanted. And I think there was one other method I was thinking about. I can't remember. Oh, yes. There were actually in times when people chose the spouse that they loved, as is in the case of Samson. Remember, Samson had his mind and heart and soul trained on getting Delilah. I think he even had a bride before. He got married to a girl before who was not an Israelite. So he seemed to have liked the non-Israelites, the uncircumcised Philistine, but he ran himself in a whole ton of trouble simply by doing that. In fact, he met his own demise when he chose outside the realm of having his godly parents involved. So those are the different methods that biblical people got married. There's another interesting fact about Bible courtship and marriage. In the Bible, it appears that many people got married rather young. In fact, they got married in their teen years. I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised, when I actually learned that Mary, the mother of Jesus, was probably about 15 when she fell pregnant with Jesus. So they got married rather young. We don't recommend teenage weddings nowadays because times have changed and we are living in a different culture. And it has been shown that when you get married during your teenage years, the probability of divorce, the risk of divorce skyrockets. So enough said about that. Let's continue on our topic tonight. Biblical dating, the biblical principles. What are the differences? What are the differences between biblical dating, and you use the term courtship? Can we define what courtship is? Would you like me to do that?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, just so we kind of know the difference.
Yes. Well, courtship, the classic elements of courtship would involve a number of things. Three main things I could think of. First of all, it is the man who pursues the woman. And not only pursue, no, actually he doesn't even pursue the woman directly. In courtship, the man sees and is interested in the woman and goes to the father of the girl or the woman and asks the father for permission to court the daughter. So it doesn't happen directly. He doesn't go to the girl directly. He goes to the parent, and primarily the father. And the whole process is orchestrated under the authority and administration of the parents and other authorities, maybe the church, the pastors. And thirdly, they have the goal of marriage in mind. So first of all, the man sees, likes, and is interested in a particular girl. He goes to the parents and not the girl, not directly to the girl, and asks permission to court the the young lady or the woman, whether she's young or not. And then the whole process of courting is done under the watchful eye of the parents or people that they are accountable to. So I think those are the main, and there is a definitive goal in mind of marrying. Now that is markedly different to modern day dating. In modern day dating, you have people, they are directly interested in each other. They begin to relate to each other, to court well, maybe not even court, to date each other. And by dating, they go out, they have fun, they go out on recreational activities, they go to dinners, movies, concerts, and all this while they do so maybe with or without the intention of having marriage at the end of it. So, and it's a rather almost selfish thing, because each person is looking out to see whether or not the other person suits them, can make them happy, is there chemistry, and they take quite a long time to make up their minds. And while this process is transpiring, they may or may not indulge in, well, how should we call it? We have to really be clinical in our discussion here. In clandestine activities. Is that good enough?
No, I think you need to be a bit more specific.
Well, we're trying to keep it easy. After 9 yet, the children have gone to sleep. They may be affectionate to each other, physically affectionate to
Intimate.
each other. I think that will do it. Shall we
Yeah,
say
that's fine.
a lot of bond take place. And while this is happening, bonding, binding, while this is happening, they may or may not be totally committed to each other. And those are some of the elements of modern day dating. Any questions?
No questions particularly. But I will say I did have a conversation with a group of adults at a conference I was speaking at a few months ago. And when I brought up the concept of courtship and approaching the woman's family or father or whatever, majority of them kind of laughed because they said um, they wouldn't, if they're grown people, they wouldn't feel the need to approach a family member or the father in order to get permission to date that person. They feel that they were old enough to be able to make a decision and didn't understand why, as grown people, they'd need to kind of seek permission.
Yeah, we get that. So I think what we need to identify here is there is a reason why the process happened that way. Now, in modern dating, like I indicated, a lot of people feel that the choice that they make, the things that they get involved with, particularly when it comes to affairs of the heart, is their own business. Nobody should tell them what to do. Nobody should dabble into their business. They make their own choices. They're intelligent enough. They're mature enough, and they don't need anybody to guide, to supervise, and to direct them. And so I could understand that. I could understand where they are coming from. Now, there are several complications that this could bring in. A, some people may not have grown up with a father. One. B, some fathers might have passed on. You know, if you're talking about adults. Remember, I said in the Bible, people got married rather early. They got married in their teen years. In modern times, particularly in the Western culture, people wait longer and longer to get married. People um, try and get their career. People try and get their education out of the way, and by this time they're well into their 20s, upper 20s, early 30s. So they are singular adults, and they're probably already supporting themselves. They don't need parental support, etc. So they have this independence, the independence mindset of making their own choices rather than having. Now, there is some danger in that, and I would like to outline the dangers, if you don't mind. The dangers is that when your emotions become engaged, when your heart becomes, or your heart, you become, what they call it, when you fall in love, when your mind is all flush with romance and romanticism, it is difficult. And I tell you this, I tell you no lie, and many people, and you yourself probably would have had that experience. It is difficult to see the woods for the trees. It's tremendously difficult to be objective. And that is why we need external support. Now, who on God's earth wouldn't think that their parents or their fathers would have their interests at heart in helping them to decide, or helping them to have the, oh man, I should go over that. Let me say that I got a little bit tongue tied. All of us, some of us are parents. I am a parent. And if I had a daughter, I would be very, very, very careful. I would have her best interests at heart. I would know when there would be, I could evaluate and suss by my own experience whether or not a man is trifling with her heart, or whether or not he's serious. So that is why we recommend that people get their parents, or if not their parents, people, senior people in the church, to support them along the journey of evaluating, of deciding, of making a choice of a permanent partner or spouse. Now, can I give you a very good example? I like to give you a very good example. And that example is when you go for a job. Many of us go for jobs, and we go for multiple jobs. We go for interviews. Usually when we go for interviews, what happens? There is not just one person sitting there interviewing you. In some cases there might be, but in many cases there are several people who are on the interview panel. And usually when you go to one interview and you pass that interview, there are several other interviews that you need to attend. And sometimes, and many times, they are different people or different panels. Why is that important? That's important because each person has a perspective that may or may not be clouded by several factors. So when several people come together to make a decision to hire a person who is likely to either harm or hurt the company, then they need unclouded, objective judgments. When it comes to matters of the heart, my dear, a lot of us think that we are qualified to make that decision totally and solely on our own. Unbeknownst to many of us, our minds become what? Clouded? Our minds, they say love is blind. love is indeed blind. And I'm driving back to the original point that it is vitally important that you get other people involved in the process of making a long-term, permanent choice of a spouse. Those people primarily should be your parents to take exactly everything they say, but it is good to get some external input. Secondly, your friends, your family and friends, because a lot of times your friends could see things that you don't see. They are objective. You are subjective because you're emotionally involved. Shall I give you a story? I like to give us stories. I was giving a lecture at a church. I think it was a church, yes. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a sniffle. Bear with me 1 minute, please. Oh, I beg your pardon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I was talking at this place when this lady piped up and she put her hands up and she said, Hilton, I want to say something. I said, fine, fire away. And she said to me, you know, when I was young, growing up in the island of Jamaica, I had a very good friend, my best friend, and she fell in love with a guy. And she came and she told me how she loves this guy. The guy told her that his parents are in America. One is a doctor, one is a lawyer. And she just swallowed the story hook, line, and sinker. And she told the lady, well, you need to come and see the guy. You must come and see the guy. Oh, brother, this guy was the best thing since sliced bread. And the arrangement was made. There was going to be a party. This lady was invited. She went to the party. She walked into the room and she saw the guy. But the guy was someone she knew. In fact, the guy was the one person who used to pass her house every morning taking his sheep to the pasture. The guy's parents were not in America. They lived up the road from her.
No.
You know, and the point I'm making here, someone you're dating shouldn't be the only source of information about himself or herself. The information should be verified. The information should be checked out. Let's use the analogy of going to work. No, not going to work, getting a job. My mind is going, getting a job. What do they usually ask you for?
References.
For what?
References.
References. And not one, usually two.
Yeah, at least.
And you could bet your bottom dollar that they check those references. Now, here is the question. When you are dating, shouldn't you get references or from and about that person? The process which the Bible espouses, the principles of dating in the Bible, suggests that you get friends and family involved and you'll be responsible to them. That is not to say that they have to make a choice for you. That is not to say that their word is final, but that is just to say that you get lots of other input other than simply the both of you. Is that clear?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, I just want to give you some other principles of biblical dating, or some dangers of what we see is happening in the world right now, what we call modern dating. And I'm going to give you about 3 to 4 different problems with modern dating. Now it's all about finding Mr. and Miss Right, someone who can make you feel happy, and happiness seems to be the goal. Your needs must be met. The focus must be on yourself, and you have people having such little trite excuses. I don't know if you've ever come across this, Andrina, and both men and women are guilty of it. Oh, I like her, but she's a little bit too chubby. Women like women. I get this from women all the time. They don't want to date anyone who's shorter than they are.
Oh,
They-
oh, you're hitting a nerve there, Hilton. And the thing is, I'm short anyway. I'm 5'3". So,
a lot of people will be much taller than you are. I think the point I'm making is that the element, modern dating seems to be a little bit trite, and we're looking for perfection. We're focused on, there is this thing about modern dating. I must tell you this, that the person must be just right for you, exactly right. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was saying to him, I shouldn't call his name. Let's call him Paul. I almost called his name, but this is public. Let's call him Paul. I said, Paul, what's happening? What's happening to you? And he said something that was rather curious. He said, Hilton, I was speaking to someone at work, a girl, and she has an established relationship. The guy loves her no end. The guy wants to marry to her. The guy is ready to commit to her, but she's not ready. Usually it's the other way around. And he was asking her, why? There's nothing particularly wrong with the guy. The guy has what it takes. The guy is willing to support you. The guy is willing to marry. And he said, the girl said something that was of interest to him, because sometimes he feels the same way. The girl said, I actually don't know if I should make that commitment, because maybe there is somebody better. She was afraid that if she made a commitment to him, then, if she made a commitment, oh, hello, I think we're joined by a friend of mine. All right, we have quite a couple of people who are joining us. Well, welcome to the show. We are now talking about biblical dating in modern times. Biblical dating in modern times. And one of the things I was saying, that in modern dating, people emphasize some very trite things. They're looking for people who are exactly right for them, who could match them 100% on compatibility, makes them happy. A person, and you have very trite excuse for people who would just dismiss other people in terms of, either chubbiness or the attitude. There's an attitude amongst modern daters that they're looking for the best one, and they're afraid that the person that they're with right now may not be the right person for them. And if they commit to that, some come along and they're already committed. And Andrina and the rest of you, I'll tell you something. Research has shown, in America, they did some research the other day, and they found that there were people, particularly men, who were in relationships, but they didn't commit to the person because, why? They are still looking for their soulmate. Did you get that?
yeah. And I can't say that it surprises me, to be honest with you.
Well, to get back to the story that I was telling you, that Paul said that this girl was in this great relationship, had this wonderful guy who is willing to marry to her, but yet she decided that, or she was on the fence about it. Maybe there is somebody out there who is better than he is. And by virtue of that, she is holding out. It's almost as if this is like a spare wheel, a spare tire, that she could put on or dismiss or take on, depending on whether or not she feels that that's the only option that she has. And that's one of the issue. Let me tell you another issue about modern dating. Modern dating seem to imply, by virtue of what they do, which is spend a lot of time checking out each other, chatting, doing activities together, and spend an awful lot of time assessing, sometimes years. I've found that even in this modern culture, we have people who get engaged to be married, and there is no there is no date for the wedding. So they spend years being engaged. Now here's the problem. Shall I tell you what the problem is? The problem is, Andrina, that while the process of dating, because there is no end goal, while they're in the process of dating, guess what is transpiring while fun activities together, movies, guess what is happening? Imperceptibly, unconsciously, they are being bounded, and the process of binding hearts and soul is happening without a commitment. And unfortunately, I must say that us men are guilty of tinkering with people's heart. We are guilty of engaging, talking to, calling out the emotions of, particularly women, and not committing. So by the time they decide, well, this person is not for me, emotions have already gotten entangled and enmeshed. And what we have happening when they decide, okay, we're going to go our separate ways, is what I call a mini divorce. Now, the Bible is against that. In 1 Thessalonians, Paul says that we must not defraud each other, because God will avenge himself on those who defraud each other. And that is a kind of deception. A deception where, you call out people's emotions, you talk with them, you give them false hope, what I call false hope, for an impression that you're interested, but you do not commit, or you're partially committed. And then eventually, guess what? You decide, oh, she's not for me, and you've broken a heart. Don't get me wrong, women do it too. Women do it too. There is this one young lady that I know about, a wonderful Christian young lady. She kept herself pure and unsullied right up through to her 30s. In her 30s, she was single. And this guy came in the church. He was converted and came into the church and saw her and liked her and decided to approach her. Her parents, but he spoke with her, and she prayed about it. Had dates for a long time, so she thought that this was an answer to prayer. And he dated her for a year and a half, and he wasn't saying anything. It was as if the relationship was going nowhere. It was drifting. But during that process, he began to try to break down the wall of resistance of her getting involved in what term did we use, Andrina? There's a term we used here: sharing affection.
Yeah, or intimacy. Yeah.
And intimacy. And eventually, her resistance was worn out and worn down, and she did what she knew she shouldn't have done. And there she was feeling guilty. And guess what? Eventually, he left her. And she was absolutely crushed. She was literally crushed. Now, I have some principles I want to share with regards to that, how one can protect oneself. If you're not willing to marry someone, you shouldn't date them. Is that clear?
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
If you're not willing to marry someone, you shouldn't date them or give them the impression that you are going to date them. Another biblical principle that I would like to share is, oh, by the way, another foundational principle that comes out of the Bible is that you should be intentional about the process of getting to know someone on that level. The Bible says that the man should leave his father and mother and get married to his wife, and the two shall become one. So once you're interested in someone, do not date them unless you have the purpose and intention of marriage. So once dating occurs or starts, you should really begin to getting a call here. I'm not sure exactly. Okay, hold on. I'll have to. Sorry, guys. Once dating starts, the intention is really to evaluate whether or not this person is going to be the one that you marry. How long should we date for? Those of you who are with me, I'm going to give you a little bit of a quiz. If you start dating, how long do you think we should date for? If you think that you should marry within 6 months of dating, put 6. If you think we should marry within a year of dating, put 1. If you think it should be 2 years, put 2. If you think it should be over 3 years, put 3 plus. All right, let's see what you have. Anyone? 1.5, Black Style 99 says. Anyone else? Anybody for 6? 1 year? It's 1.5. Okay, I'll tell you.
I actually think 1.5 years, including like for the wedding to be at the end of it. So I don't just mean you date for a year and a half and then you plan the wedding, which is going to be another year away. I think within a year and a half you should know and be able to be kind of looking towards a wedding in the next few months.
Okay. Okay, I agree with that. A year and a half. I say here are the foundational principles that we have. I say, look, if you are dating for a year, you should know by that time whether or not you want to marry the person. After a year of dating, you should have some kind of a date in mind to get married, particularly as Christians. So a year and a half is good. 2 years, fine. Beyond 2 years, you're going to be running into problems as a Christian. Because as a Christian, unless you are studying, unless you're saving up for a house, unless you are you have some major plans or something to that effect, it's going to be very, very difficult to keep your hands to your side. Let's say that we are human beings. And what would happen, I know of a guy who told me he waited 10 years before he decided to get married to the girl that he was going out with. And I thought, well, boy.
10 years?
10 years. He waited 10 years.
I'm surprised that she waited that long.
Well, she really loved him. It seemed as
obviously.
though she really loved him, and for some reason or the other, she hung in there for 10 years. That, I think that's an extreme. I think that's an extreme. But for more than 5 years, for more than 2, 3 years, you need to reevaluate whether or not you are going to stay in the relationship or you are going to move on, because that's just a waste of time, literal waste of time. Now, what do you do? What do you do if you're not getting any dates? How do you go about getting dates? What are some of the principles in the Bible that could help us to do that? We were suggesting that Christians should date, but it is not the way the world dates, but there is a certain way that Christians date, not as the world dates. Oh, sorry, I drew a blank there. I lost my track. So how should Christians date? How do you get dates? How do you approach a person for a date? How do you evaluate the person while you're dating? What do you do or not do? How far is too far? Well, there are two different methods. First of all, if you're a male, there is one method for males. If you're female, there is another method for females. We have just about maybe 10 minutes left, so we are going to wrap this up rather quickly. Sorry, excuse me, I have a little bit of a runny nose. Now, are there any questions before we continue? No questions? Are you all there?
Well, I am. I
Okay.
think Adrian Holder had to pop out, so I don't think he's here.
Okay. You're there. Hello, Crystal. We want to welcome you. And if you're still there, put a yes, a Y in the chat box and let us know that you are around.
I'm here.
Oh, great. Any questions from you?
No questions. I'm listening.
Okay, good.
Thank
All
you.
right. I want to share a couple of ideas about the principles of dating from a biblical perspective, how to go about dating, and if you're in a relationship, what you should or should not do, and what are the purposes of dating. The purpose. First of all, if you're a man, I actually suggest that you evaluate the person before you engage the person's attention and heart. And let me tell you where I get this from. You remember the story of Ruth? Boaz was actually interested in Ruth. But before he actually approached Ruth, he did his research. He asked the foreman, who is that girl? And he asked around about the personality and the character of Ruth. I say that we do our research before we actually approach the person. And if we decide that this person would make a suitable partner, then we move ahead and engage the person's interests to consolidate whether or not what you have decided in your mind is the right thing. Sorry about that. Do you agree with that?
Well, I do. I'm not a male, so I can't really take it from a male's perspective, but I think that's a good way to approach it. I think it's important for men to do their research first before they approach a lady.
Okay, that's one. Now, what happens, and this is a good question I have, what happens if you're a woman and you're interested in someone? What do you do? Do you wait and twiddle your fingers and pray that God would lead the person's interest to you? Or do you actively engage in doing something to catch the person's interest? If you say yes, um, if you say yes, put a Y in the chat box. If you say no, how do we do it? How do you go about? Because this is a big thing. I went to a panel discussion once, and there were several pastors on that panel discussion, and they were adamant that women should not initiate any kind of romantic relationship with men. They should wait, and if the man is interested, let the man pursue. How do you feel about this?
I think that if we wait, we might be waiting for a very long time. Um, and if we're going by biblical examples, Ruth approached Boaz, um, and she was guided by Naomi with what to do. So I think there's certain things that you can do without becoming on too strong, but that can kind of show you interest and see if there's anything there.
Okay, that is good. I like that. I actually think that you should take responsibility for your love life. Now, taking responsibility mean many different things, but sitting around and waiting for a man or the man to do something for you, with you, to you, and show interest may actually cause you to lose a potential spouse. Now, how do you go about doing this? I like the process that you spoke about, Andrina, and it's a process that I call mentoring. Get someone to mentor you, and it's quite simple. If you're in a church or if you're a group, get one of the brethren, the senior brethren, the pastor perhaps, the elders, or someone that you can trust and confide in, and let him be a mentor for you. Obviously, you're not going to just choose anyone willy-nilly. Someone that you can really confide in, you can rely on, you can put your trust and confidence in. Or you can get one of the a woman. Get someone to mentor you along the process. You need an ally. But there is nothing wrong in talking to the person. There is nothing wrong in engaging the person in a platonic way. There is nothing wrong in being a group with the person. There is nothing wrong in inviting the person to group functions, not one-on-one dating, but group functions. There's nothing wrong in saying, well, look, we're having a cleanup on Wednesday afternoon at 6 p.m. Why don't you just come along? Or a group of us are going ice skating. It's going to be fun. Bring your friend along and let's go. There is nothing wrong in engaging in activities where the person is part of the group and you join that group and talk to, engage with, not just the person but everybody else, but making sure that you're on the person's radar. I hope that is clear. If people are not showing interest in you, there is nothing wrong in showing interest in people. If people are not talking to you, there's nothing wrong in talking to people. Nobody is going to land you in jail simply because you start a conversation. And here is something I always say. Why not start a conversation? Because you will never know where a conversation will lead. Start a conversation, not a relationship. All right. I also want to share some biblical principles of how powerful, how to be attractive. I know in modern times we speak about, dressing well, and I don't want to go down that road because you already know that story. But in the Bible, or you already know how to do that, in the Bible there are some factors. The Bible points out some really powerful factors that anybody, regardless to your size, your age, regardless to whether or not you're tall or short, could employ, and you become a very attractive person. And one of those things, or several of them, I'll give you 5 of them. There are more, but I'll give you 5. And I'd like you to write me, and I could send across some details. If you put your emails in the chat box, they'll send across some detail of the others. The first one is helpfulness. What did I say? Helpfulness. I'll put them in the, no, I don't have the time to, helpfulness. One of the features that really attracted the servant who was looking for a wife for Isaac is Rebecca's helpfulness. In fact, she went way beyond his expectations of being helpful. So helpfulness, just helping people. The second thing is kindness. The second thing is kindness. The Bible speaks about be kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another. And there is nothing like a tender heart. Well, what is a tender heart? A tender heart is a heart that looks out for, that has compassion, that is empathetic. A tender heart is a heart that, feels for other people. And that is a very attractive feature. I could tell you that from both from a masculine perspective. There is something else that I would like to share with you that sometimes get overlooked. And the Bible speaks about this, where he made male and female. He made what? Male and female. One of the most powerful attractive features of all females is something that we call femininity. Femininity, your feminine essence. And nowadays, I think that it is being grounded out of women. There is a whole movement to there's what they call gender neutrality. There's a term called gender neutrality, where even in some places you have both male and female toilets, a toilet that is for both genders. So there is somehow a merging of the genders, which the Bible clearly points out. The Bible clearly points out that they are different. So masculinity, I know many women, and I guarantee you, most of you women on this call would say that you love and you're attracted to masculine men. And men, on the other hand, are powerfully attracted to feminine women who's graceful and gracious. So we have helpfulness, we have kindness, we have femininity, masculinity, those of your men. And then if you go to 1 Corinthians 13, if you go to 1 Corinthians 13, there are some characteristics there, some features that are identified as love. And one of them is not being arrogant and boastful, but being humble. So humility is, again, whether you're male or female, a very attractive feature. Very powerfully, when someone's humble and you get to know them and you get to understand who they are, you're almost in awe of these people. Humility. And there is self-control. Nobody likes someone who flies off the handle. The Proverbs talks about that a person who can control his spirit, or who can't control his spirit, is worse than, I can't even remember the proverb, but self-control is a feature that should be seen in all of us. The opposite of not having self-control, people who are usually very angry. People who are usually very, very angry. And anger, nobody likes anger. Nobody likes drama. If you're a man and you have anger issues, I'm telling you, your women will be averse to that. And if you're a woman who is a drama queen, well, I don't have to tell you that a lot of men will not be attracted to that. So self-control. So we have several of those that we've given you. I think that's about 5 or so now. How many of them have I actually identified? I could give you more, but we don't have the time for that.
I've put them in the box, Hilton. I don't know if everybody can see them, but we've
Oh
got
yeah,
helpfulness,
helpfulness,
kindness,
kindness, femininity,
femininity,
masculinity,
masculinity, humility, and
self-control. What else can you think of that I haven't put there?
I I think you've actually covered quite a few, and you've covered the basic ones.
No, yes,
Um,
those are the very basic.
yeah, I think those are really good places to start. And if you struggle with any of those, or any of those aren't part of your character, I think it's important to work on them and develop them in order to give yourself a really good foundation.
Now, I want to end by giving one last one, and it is one that I usually harp on because anybody could implement it, and you will do the world of good, both for yourself and for the world and for other people around you, and other people will talk about you, and your reputation will be spawned abroad. There was a time when Jesus went to a particular area, and he did some miracles, and he told the guy that he healed, well, don't tell anyone. And the guy still went ahead and told the entire village. And Jesus' reputation just spread throughout the entire, not just village, the entire region. And hordes of people were drawn to Jesus. Why? Because of his good works. Peter told the women that they mustn't leave their unsaved husbands because their good works may convert these husbands. And I want to go a little bit further than Peter. I want to say to you that your good work, whether or not you're a man or a woman, your good works would be your calling card. Your good works, when people see that you are unselfishly serving the community, the church, other people, people will recommend you. People will recommend you. Remember that story in Acts of a lady called Dorcas? She died, and the whole community really pressed and said, you know, this woman, we can't lose her because her deeds are so powerfully beneficial to all of us that we need to have her again. And by the sheer fact that she was so good and kind in the community, she was resurrected to have a second chance at life. I would like to say this to you, that you practice random acts of kindness, that you go out of your way to do good and be loving, to be helpful to people, and you would find that people would be magnetized to you. People will talk about you. People will recommend you, and people would want to be with you. Men would want you to be a potential spouse. Women will talk about you to other people, and your reputation will go way beyond your immediate geographical area. I want you to have a think about that, and I want you to implement that. Okay, we're going to have to wrap up now. My son has been harassing me to come and tell him a story, and it's time for him to go to sleep. But before we go, we have a couple of announcements to make, don't we, Andrina? We are going to have a wonderful seminar in, I don't think they could see you. We are going to have a wonderful seminar in Birmingham on Monday the 28th, an all-day seminar from 10 to 4. And the title of the seminar is Meet, Date, Marry. In that seminar, we will break down the dynamics of how to meet, how to date, and how to marry someone. And this is particularly for Christian singles who want to marry. And we want by this time next year that you would either be married or be engaged or be on your way in a serious relationship. I hope you could be there. I hope you would be there. Andrina, can you just give us some more details of that, please?
Yeah, if anybody wants any more information, you can go to divineintroductions.co.uk, or you can email us at info@divineintroductions.co.uk, and I am putting them in the chat box as well. The
Mhm.
price is £15 if you book online, or it's £20 on the door, and lunch is included. And you can also find information on Facebook as well. Just search Divine Introductions or Meet, Date, Marry. Practical ways to meet your future spouse.
Okay, well, we are here to support you in the process of doing that. And remember, God wants you married. And don't for a moment doubt that. And hopefully, it will be God could get you married anytime. He could get you married next week, next month, next couple of months, within the next year. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Okay, finally, are there any questions, burning questions or issues that you would like us to address before we sign off?
Yes, I have two questions.
Yeah.
The first question would be, you mentioned about investigating a person and being in a platonic situation where you can invite them out with a group of friends. So I just wanted to ask, does that time that you investigate them and spend time with them in a group of friends situation, does that contribute to the year that you should be dating?
No, it doesn't. Because you don't have that relationship. That is not part of the no.
Okay. The second thing is it was mentioned that there was a text box connected to this live call.
Yes.
I've tried to look around in the Hangout and I can't seem to find it. I'm new to using this system, so I've had a look.
Okay.
I've
There
you
should,
know, I don't know where it would be.
I'm thinking that people aren't seeing it, Hilton, which is a shame. We'll have to look into it for next time because I am typing stuff, but I don't think anybody's responding. So, yeah, I think it's not there. And Sweet, you asked if there was parking at the seminar. There will be parking. There is parking available, so you can just drive and park your cars if you want to. The nearest train station's probably about a 20-minute drive away, so you can get a taxi from Birmingham New Street.
Okay. Is there any way that you could, where we've got someone that's messaged about availability at the seminar? Can you message it in that talk there? Because I can see the questions that they're posting.
Right, I've got those questions just popping up on my phone, but I don't know where they're going, so I can't actually see those at the moment. But let me see if I can find it, because I don't know where it's going to. No.
I've posted questions to it, and I could also see their questions, so I'm not sure where the box is that you've been sending the information, because I was wondering whether you could probably put the information in that if you can
Yeah.
access it.
If I'm gonna try and find it now. Just bear with me.
hold on. So you're saying I'm a little bit confused. You're saying that you're not able to see the chat box on the Hangouts, but you could see another chat box.
Well, there's a box that I can see. See, I've just received a message. I think that's you saying
Yeah, that's
hello.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So that's what I can see. Wherever else she was posting, I couldn't see it.
Right.
Okay. That's a little bit right. If you could could you give me your details, or you probably don't, if you don't want to give it to me publicly, I'll give you my details, or give Andrina, maybe Andrina could give you her details and you can just link with her and I'll get your details from her and contact you directly.
No problem. I do have your email address because when you log in, your email comes up as well, a Gmail account email.
Okay, yes, that's fine. You can write me and let me know those details
Right.
from you.
I'm
Okay.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question? I think you asked the question whether or not researching the person, if that's part of the year. No. When I said the year, it is when both of you decide that you are going to form a relationship together.
Okay.
Yep. From
Yep,
that
I
point
totally
on.
understand. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Could somebody just post another message to the chat because I've lost it. I don't know what's going on, and I just wanted to put the flyer. Oh, actually, I think I've got it. I just want to put the flyer for the seminar in there so that everybody's got it. Thank you. Bear with me. Sorry, Hilton, I know that you've got to go. I just want to put this in there
No,
so
no, that's
everybody can
fine.
see it. And
By the way, while we are at it, let me just say, I think you're Kirsty, aren't you? Crystal.
Crystal,
Um,
yes.
Let me just simply say that usually by the end of a year, in fact, it is said that within 15 minutes of meeting you, a man has already decided whether or not you are wife, you could be wife material.
Yeah, I've heard that
And I
said.
think women similarly in their minds. So that decision is kind of already made up, and everything
Yeah.
else after that is just simply confirming or denying denying the conclusion, that the foregone conclusion.
Okay. When are you going to have another live stream?
Next Thursday. In fact, I forgot. Good that you asked, Crystal. Next Thursday, we are going to be talking about holy and horny. What to
Okay.
do with your sexual feelings as a single Christian.
Okay, great. Will it be the
So make
same
sure.
time?
I'm not sure. I have your email, don't I?
Yes, it would be in because I had to log in and sign in. So if you get all
Okay,
the data
well, yeah.
from my
I'll
details
send
will be
I'll send out the details and you will get it.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome. If there isn't anything else, as the British would say, I'll love you and leave you. And may God bless you and keep you. And may God provide for you the desires of your heart. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to get in touch with me directly at godwantsyoumarried.com or info@godwantsyoumarried or godwantsyoumarried@gmail.com. And my number is also 07903 317 426. If you want to get in touch with Andrina concerning the sessions that we'll be having on Monday, please, Andrina, can you put your number in?
yeah, I'm going to put it in. I'm going to put. Oh, can you repeat your phone number, please, Hilton?
Yes, it's 07903 317 426.
Thank you. I'll copy that to the chat as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, it was great talking and conversing with everyone, and it's going to be over and out. Stay blessed.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.